Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman. Our next guest up in the studio is Bryan Stevens, Executive Director of Morgan Stanley Private Wealth Management. Welcome, Bryan.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be on the show.
It's great to have you on Radio Entrepreneurs. So tell us a little about what it is that your group does and within Morgan Stanley, and if you'd like, Morgan Stanley in general. Tell us a little about your practice and what it is that you do.
Sure. So our team works within the private wealth division of the firm. So we have a small group of clients. Generally, we work with about 40 to 45 households in the 10 to 20 million plus liquid net worth area. And our clients tend to be business owners because most folks in that demographic tend to be business owners who've either accumulated wealth through their business or had liquidity events. So between business owners and sports and entertainment individuals, that kind of makes up the bulk of our practice.
So tell us a little bit about the services that you're providing for them. I would imagine, it runs the gamut from a wealth management perspective. It's probably growth, but preservation of capital is important too.
Yeah, it's all the above. It's really, for business owners specifically, we're helping them from the early stages of their business all the way through the sale and liquidity events. So, for people who are starting businesses, a lot of times we deal with serial business owners where they'll just continually buy, fix up, and then sell businesses. So we'll help them with coming up with sources of financing. We'll help them with making sure that the executive compensation packages and retirement plans are maximized for the company and the employees, getting appropriate lines of credit and liquidity, and then at some point, if they're looking to raise capital, we'll start looking at different sources of capital for them. And then risk mitigation, we'll look at their insurance policies, both corporate, personal, P&C, property and casualty, buy-sell agreements for partners, making sure that the ownership structures of their businesses and the real estate are structured properly for risk mitigation. And then really kind of helping to figure out their own personal financial plan in relation to the business. What do they need in order to, identify the buckets of money that they need. So you have, the liquidity money, their kind of 1 to 3 year cash flow needs, their longevity money, which is the money that they're going to need to satisfy their own retirement, and then kind of their legacy money, which is, what are they going to do for the greater good? That could be either family members or to charity, or money that's really beyond their needs in their life. So it's everything from charity planning to risk mitigation, financial planning. It really does run the gamut. There's a lot.
So it's really an all-encompassing sort of view of their world, and really touching on multiple aspects and facets of it. What now is it typical that a client would engage you for all of the above services, or do they tend to be more selective in nature, looking at some aspects, or do people generally come to you with a predetermined need in mind and then, over time avail themselves of the various services? How does it generally work, or is there a pattern to it?
I wouldn't say there's a perfect pattern, but I would say that generally a lot of business owners, they tend to have a pie chart of their net worth. It looks like Pac-Man, where they have their business and then they have a little slice, which is their liquid net worth. And if you put a little eye in that pie chart, it looks like Pac-Man. And what we try to do is get to know these clients before they monetize that Pac-Man, and they start to look at, how do I turn this new wealth into a new income stream, and what does this new liquidity mean for me? How do we manage it from a tax efficient standpoint? Taxes is clearly a huge issue for business owners and monetization strategies. So, we generally get introduced to clients through our own clients or through professionals, be it attorneys or professional tax advisors. But we've met clients who have a particular need. Maybe they need financing for their business, or maybe they're looking to raise equity, or they may have a retirement plan for their business that it needs some improvements. So we get introduced to people for different issues, and then once we get to know the client and we really do an in-depth discovery with them, we generally uncover a lot of other areas that we can be helpful.
And it's so far reaching or so broad in terms of the level of service that you provide. How much involvement do you have with the client? And I know, again, it's probably not a typical case, but from the breadth or the scope of what you're talking about, it sounds like almost a 24/7, if not a full-time involvement. What's the time commitment from a client's perspective to working with you, and how do you guys in turn manage that process?
It's a lot. So that's why we limit the number of clients that we work with, because we want to, the way I like to look at our practices is we have one first class plane, and there's every seat in the plane is first class. So if we start to realize that we can't handle the workload, we either need to upsize our team, or we need to, raise the minimum, so the people that we're working with, to make sure that we're giving the best that we can to our clients. I will also say, though, that clients tend to need work in chunky periods, meaning that they're going through an event. It's all hands on deck with that client for for a period of time until they get to the other end of that either transaction or that event, and then it's not as intensive, and perhaps we need to do kind of a every other week or monthly check-ins after that. But while we're in the middle of a transaction or in the middle of an event, of course we could be speaking every day.
Hmm. So I imagine balancing that out for your team and making sure that that your clients are getting the highest level of service possible is sort of that moving target all the time
Yeah.
of making sure. And it doesn't sound like a lot to say we've got 40 clients, but if you're 25 of them are going through some sort of event that requires a lot of attention, it can be highly demanding, I'd imagine, on your team.
That would be a high number of people going through transactions at the same time, but yeah, if that happened, we'd figure out a way to make it work. And we also have a lot of great resources within firms. So we have kind of a family office group that has dedicated resources that help assist our team. So we have trust and estates lawyers, we have tax specialists, and we have risk management specialists that we can use and implement and integrate into our team. So, although a lot of it is us, we are also leaning on a lot of the resources within the firm, and also clients tend to have professional advisors that we interact with as well. So, it's a combination of all those things.
So, obviously there's been a lot of change over the course of the last year and a half as the pandemic's rolled out, and I'm sure your clients have wanted to take a look at their own situations. We all know, I think, that the markets have done fairly well. But what are some of the concerns that you're seeing, and what are some of the items that your clients are starting to pay attention to, and worries, that the things that keep them up at night?
I mean, that's a really good question, because the risks and the concerns are all very different. So we have some businesses who've been thriving and have been having record years, and then we have some businesses where we're trying to figure out which assets are best for them to leverage to fund the business ongoing, and keeping things going. So some industries, as you know, have had a really hard time, and some industries have been just doing really well. So the concerns for those that are not doing well are obviously just kind of how much runway do we have. Those PPP loan programs were great, and they helped a lot of people, but again, they can't help forever. So it's just kind of like when things reopen, and how does that reopening affect our bottom line, has been kind of we've been doing some analysis on how long a runway do we have before liquidity starts to get tight, those types of things. Reducing expenses, reducing costs, trying to just basically bulletproof their own financial situation, so that if something happens to the business, that they have kind of a safe bulletproof plan for their own finances. And then the people who are doing really well, it's kind of, how do we shelter this? How do we grow the business? How do we capture more of this growth? Because you're doing really, really well. All you want to do is do even better than that. So these people are trying to figure out how to optimize the staying in that vein of business and doing even better. So trying to optimize strategies by either doing financing for acquisitions or reinvesting in technology or hiring new teams. I mean, those are all things that we've been talking about.
Good. So, again, you really mirror the economy in general in terms of the types of work that you're doing with your clients and what you're seeing. And, have you seen an uptick in calls with the change in administration at the federal level and Congress and et cetera? Do you see your clients tend to call you and want your insights and what should we do? Is there any moves that we need to make? Do you typically tend to see that in presidential cycles, election cycles?
Yeah, we do, and it's in two different ways, right? So one is in an investment front, so it's kind of the increases in infrastructure spending and the thematic changes between which would do better in which administration. So that was a big topic, kind of pre-election and structuring the portfolios to reflect a view on those. And then there's the taxation issue. So there's the income tax, and then there's the capital gains, and then there's estate taxes. And all of those have impending issues for each client individually. So, for estate taxes, we were talking about slats, a lot last year, taking advantage of the lifetime exemptions in case those get reduced. We've been talking about potential liquidity events for some business owners prior to capital gains tax rates potentially going up. As you've probably seen in the news, a lot of entertainment professionals have been looking to monetize their catalogs because they want to do that in advance of the taxations potentially going up. So yeah, I would say, and then the income tax, there's really not much you can do about it except for the fact that some people can put like defined benefit plans in place and defer more money, and push kick the can down the road for taxes, but there's not really much you can do in the way of avoiding income tax.
Hmm. So really, again, really multifaceted, and you've just described a whole bunch of things that must keep you up at night because you've got a lot of things to be topical and to be savvy of, and to direct your clients in the right direction, whether within your firm or externally, to get the guidance and assistance that they need. So.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, look, every time we hear an announcement on a tax policy or a new initiative from either politically or economically, we're always thinking about how does it impact each client. So that's what keeps it fun, keeps it interesting. It's definitely not the same day on repeat every day. It's a great industry, and you really feel good about helping the people that you're working with. And since we only work with a limited number of families, we really get to know them well, and so it a lot of times blossoms into kind of a client relationship and a friendship at the same time.
Wonderful. Our guest is Bryan Stevens, Executive Director of Morgan Stanley Private Wealth Management. Bryan, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
They can email me at Bryan, Bryan, period, STEPHENS at morganstanleypwm.com, or my direct phone number is 212-296-1015.
Excellent. Bryan, it's been a real pleasure having you on Radio Entrepreneurs, and we appreciate your insights into how you assist your clients.
Thanks so much. It was great to connect, and thanks for having me on the show.
Not at all. And we'll be right back with another guest on Radio Entrepreneurs.